Well, we're sitting here at Forward Conference 2022, and so we thought we would take advantage for this month's episode of our podcast to bring in Reggie Dabbs, probably one of the greatest mentors of young men that I've ever met. And so we're here today to talk a little bit about the next generation, young people, as pastors, as leaders, what our responsibility is to reach the next generation. And so, Pastor Reggie, thanks so much for joining us today.
This is an honor. Absolutely. Both of you. They just pulled me out and said, you got to do something. I said, Then I got here and I'm like, oh, this is good. I already took selfies.
You, Reggie, have probably reached as many young people as anybody I know. And you seem like you have a fresh, whole new desire. You would think you would start to calm down about it, but I've watched you even in this conference, and there's something, you're like a man possessed now all over again. What's going on with you?
It just happened. A girl came up and she said, I didn't want to come because my dad died. And you remind me of my dad.
Wow.
And she hugged me and started crying. She goes, but every time you got up this week, he said, I just had this peace. And then I realized that, God took my dad home because it was time. He missed him and he wanted him to be with him. But God left a glimpse of my dad in you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know what you guys were doing or talking about. And that just happened. So you threw me for a loop because I want to be, I don't mind being that example. Follow me, I'll lead you to Christ. That's where we're at right now. And we got to be that guy. We got to be that person. We got to be that pastor. We got to be that leader, to be the shepherd. And like Jake said, not the superstar, but the shepherd that would love people back to hope, to guidance. So that's been in my heart for a while now, to just be that, just love them all. Even if they choose wrong, I'm going to love them. I want to be one of the hurdles to sin. You got to jump over me to get to the sin. That's what I want to be.
Come on.
And it is fresh. It really is. I'm glad you saw that.
Very good.
There's no doubt about it. And I think, too, just the acceptance of, like you said, there are so many orphaned hearts that are just crying out for a leader, crying out for a father, a spiritual father.
Yeah.
And that is what your role is, my role at this season in my life. I just listened to one of the greatest sermons I've ever heard in my life, and it was one of the sons in the Lord, Javon Ruff, and he just gets up and brings the most powerful message. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, Lord, how many more are out there? I don't know how much more time I've got, but I had much rather spend my time shaping those arrows.
Absolutely.
And shooting them out into the world.
Yay.
And that's why really, Reggie, we did, and Marcus, thank you for being here. Well, another arrow, mighty arrow. And that's why we did this podcast, is because I felt a vacuum of young preachers out there that need people in their life that speak not for any motive or any reason. I don't want a gathering of pastors and stuff for anything they can give me. I don't need anything from you. But what I do need is you to receive what I have, because I feel like in what you have and what we have learned together, because it's almost like a burden to me now that I've got to find those arrows. I want to be a mighty man, and I've got to have arrows in my quiver, according to Psalms 127, because a mighty man has sons and daughters in the Lord, and they become his arrows.
Absolutely.
And you project them into the future. And that's the weight I feel in this season of my life.
And we're that other generation. I mean, the guys before us was like, you got to fight, you got to work your way through it, you got to go up the steps, you got to work up the ladder, then you get to be where I am. Where I believe our generation is like, I've already fought, I've already climbed the ladder. Why don't you just take off where I'm leaving off?
Boy,
and I believe God's opening doors for that. Dude, this right now in my life, what we're doing, I'm literally this moment, because I didn't know, It's answering what's been in my heart. I'm in the middle of my master's degree because I've had some universities say, "Can you come and teach how to give an altar call? Can you come and teach how to flow?" It said, "You do this stuff so good, and it's just so easy. And I'm like, that is stuff that can be taught, but you have to be willing to sit and learn. And maybe that's one of our next conferences.
Come on.
It is a great, here's the bottom line, what the Lord spoke to me recently, just in the last few weeks. I wrote down the word facilitate. The Holy Spirit, he said, your whole purpose in ministry in this season of your life is not to get up and try to show somebody how you can preach, or not try to, we never start off with those motives. We don't have those motives. No. If you're sincere, but you can feel, you can get so distracted. But if I can, every service, every message, every person's responsibility, what we're doing here even today is not just bringing information to people. I want to facilitate God in what I'm doing, in the sermon, in the song, and see, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So many don't know how on the end of a message to facilitate God into that room. You are one of the most unique, gifted people in that area. What have you learned about that? What is the key? Can you give us a few niblets of that?
I'll tell you, the first thing is believe in what you're preaching. Literally, when you get up, you got to know what that altar call is. So I start with the altar call and work my way backwards.
That's great.
And also, everything you're doing in your mind before you speak it out, you know that it's through God, through you, to them. And so to be able to have the faith to get to the end and say, all right, God, show out, let's go. Or hear it in your mind go, you're done. The clock could still be at 15 minutes. But when that in your head go, I'm ready. You step out of the way because you're one with the Holy Spirit. You're one with the presence of God, and he's ready to do what I cannot do. I can't save. I can't deliver. I can't heal. I can love a kid. They can make me cry. I can hug them. I can be Uncle Reggie, but he is the one that makes it happen. But to have enough faith to take it there and to believe that God's going to finish it, you got to be able to do that. That's the greatest key in this thing. Believe what you're saying. You got to believe it.
That's it.
I'm amazed at what you just said, faith, because that's it. That's what it comes down to. A lot of pastors preach the most brilliant, powerful messages, and they get down to the altar call, and they don't even have an altar call or anything. And I understand there's different styles, and sometimes I don't bring everybody down. I get all of that. But what I love about what you just said is it does take just as much faith to believe what you preached and then expect a response. One time the Lord told me the reason my church would grow is he said, I can trust you. I can trust you with the lost. I can trust you to know that when people walk into your service, you are going to have the lost in mind no matter what you're preaching on. And you're going to bring it back to that.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Very good.
Absolutely.
Pastor, Reggie, one of the reasons we set out to do this podcast was, millions have been impacted by pastors' ministry and preaching, but few have had a look into his mentoring anointing, and which is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than what the millions have seen. And you're that exact same type of person.
Oh, absolutely.
Where, it's one thing to see how you are on the stage, but what has gone before you top notch, top shelf, grade A. Can't do better than what you do on a stage. But what speaks louder is how you treat people off the stage, how you're out here in the lobby talking to kids, greeting kids, loving kids, how you go into these cities and one school assembly after another. Then you go to the games that night and you go to the locker rooms and talk to the kids. None of that you have to do. A lot of people do a school assembly. A lot of people do a huge arena, but they won't go and do that other stuff. And what Pastor said years ago about you is that you get it. You get how to treat people. You get what it's really about. And that's just a small part of it, but it's how you operate. So here we are talking to young pastors, young preachers. And when I look at you guys, one of the things I said years ago is I meet preachers along the way, but a lot of them treat people bad, and they don't mean to. And I'm not even saying I'm not saying about me, but when I would see how you or pastor, how kind you guys are, how you treat people, no matter who they are. Even when you were at our church, you were out in the lobby in between services. We were trying to figure out how to get Reggie back in because he had to speak again because you just wanted to hang out with the people. So where does that come from? Because if God lets me do something in the way that you do it, I hope I can treat people right when I get there.
And it's about people. I mean, I can always get back to my hotel and it's just me and Michelle, and I can lay down, take a nap. But the minute, and my wife even is great at it, the minute we walk out of the hotel room, even if we go get breakfast in the lobby, we're eating breakfast with the whole room. It's not just whoever's at my table. We're eating breakfast. They may not even be at Forward Conference, but they may be on vacation, but they met the guy from Forward Conference because he just came up and said hi. It's about people. And when you go with that mindset, the devil has a way of putting stuff in. You got this going on, that going on. But
good.
Sometimes you just got to leave your phone in the green room, because if it starts humming, it may distract you from what you have to do in that room. And there's nothing more important at that moment than the people you are about to speak to, the people you're about to look at. They're the most important people in your life, because God let you breathe long enough to get to that sermon. And I am only as good as the next person I get to meet. Not the next sermon I get to preach.
Wow.
The next
Very
person I get to meet. Because that next person might be my next sermon. And it may be my greatest sermon. It may be the reason why from a mom who was a prostitute, I got saved and ended up here. It may not be because of something I do at Forward. It may be something I do with an Uber driver.
So
it
good.
just may be that.
So good.
And I lived my life. I didn't want this. I didn't.
Yeah.
I think
I'm just emotional today.
Yeah,
What's
I
wrong
am
today?
too.
Beautiful.
I am too. I think too the realization, and we go there on this podcast because I like to talk about cultural and current events. The realization really set into me yesterday while we were having this conference that the Supreme Court made the announcement that they had overturned Roe versus Wade and sending it back to the states. And I did become a little emotional. I know that we stood as a ministry. I stood as a preacher. I stood for the whole purpose that I got involved in any way, shape, or form in any way trying to establish a culture of life in America was for the Supreme Court, because I understood something spoke inside of me and said, if you are silent and you don't not just get in everything, but say what the Bible says clearly. And the Supreme Court at that time, we never dreamed would have 3 empty seats and then be replaced. And I did feel a sense of it was worth it all.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we went through hell. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we went through brutal attacks, serious attacks. Some people just really, to this day, pastor friends that will not speak or call me, they know me. And it's just, I haven't changed. I've always been, what does the Bible say? That's, but not in a spirit of gloating or arrogance or how we were right or anything like that. It's more of a humility that I feel of saying somehow, some way, maybe the preachers, the courageous preachers, and there's a lot of young ones out there, sitting with one, that took a stand and said, life is right, and standing for life is right. To see this happen and know that generations, that it was a big moment for me yesterday.
It was a big moment for Christianity.
Yeah.
Because if anything now in modern times come down to right, wrong, life, death, sin, Christian, it's this one thing. And back in the day when I started, like in 1986, to send a packet to a school. We used to mail them out, and it would start by saying, born to an unwed teenager who once considered abortion her option.
Wow.
Reggie is happy to be alive. But we had to change it because a lot of schools says we don't want him because he's going to talk about abortion. And I go, I don't talk about abortion, but it's a fact that a school teacher talked my mom into giving birth to me.
Good.
That was just it. And so, but now, and then literally yesterday, I was just like, my wife's like, "You pretty happy, aren't you?" I said, I didn't think I would see this. I knew the fight would and what happens next, I don't know. But for right now, a pastor said it from the platform last night. It's almost like God said, I ain't done yet. I got hope for this generation. He said he was going to pour out his power on in the last generation, and we're going to see him come again. I believe we're in that gap right now. We're in that almost about to split the eastern sky and we going home gap. So now is the time for you young preachers to get it going, all right? This podcast is perfect. What we're doing is right. We encourage you, get on our shoulders and keep climbing. Because guess what? We're not the fastest. We're the same age, me and Pastor. We're not the fastest, but it's a relay race. If it is, we're about to pass that baton off. And we know what we get to do? We don't get to just disappear and go to an old folks' home. We get to run to the finish line and watch you guys hit the tape. And we're going to be yelling and screaming, going, "Go, boys." Yes, we win. Because when you win, we get the medal, too.
Wow. I was actually at a pastor's conference in Miami this week, and Roy Gerald, who, if you know, is pastored for 50-some years in St. Louis area, and has all of his kids are in the ministry, and he's sitting on the front row, of this conference, but he's not doing anything the whole conference. And I'm emceeing some of the parts of it, and I look down and I see him, and I felt sorry for him. Like, man, after all those years of preaching and teaching and ministering, he's just sitting there, and it bothered me. And then we went into a time of worship, and I went over to the side, and I was watching him, and all he was doing was worshiping. And I felt like the Lord spoke to me that you just got a picture of what the finish line looks like.
Come on.
The end point's not the stage. The end point's when you're sitting on the front row clapping for his grandson that is on the stage.
Come on.
Oh, yes. Man.
You know, that's the goal. That's the win. He's just sitting there,
very powerful.
90 years old, run his race.
That's awesome.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it gave me hope that's a big deal. Talk to some of the pastors that are listening about the next generation. What can we do to, because pastors seem to get discouraged. It's hard to find a great youth pastor. It's hard. It's an inconsistent arena. What can pastors do?
Step over the doubt that you have and grasp the hope that you have. Because there's something in every one of those young preachers that they do really, really good. Grab onto that and build off of it. Let them know. The thing about our generation, you can tell me everything wrong, and I'll go out and fix it, and I can go. This generation, you got to give them something good, then correct them.
It's good.
Otherwise, they're like, he don't like me no more. But that's the way they grew up. They grew up, you don't get your Xbox for a week if you do wrong. We grew up, you go to school with a limp if you do wrong. I mean, dude, it's just instantaneous. You did wrong, pay for it, let's go. But when you grow up in those different atmospheres, the way you handle is different, all right? So, yeah, they may need to have, you know what, that was a great sermon last Wednesday. I listened to it on YouTube. You listen to my sermon, and let me show you what we got to do better. They're still, I'm going to listen to you because you said you listened to my sermon. So you can correct them because you gave them something right. That's the way this generation works. That's the way they are. And then in the end, they'll remember you correcting them, but they also remember you gave them time when they wasn't around to hear what they did. So they need to listen to you in return because they know that you care about them. So I don't know if you'll get it or not. I don't know if but that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. And you young guys, don't worry about it. You got to be corrected. You need to learn it from us and not the world. You want pastors to correct you, not the lady on the third row who's ticked off already, all right? So learn correction. Let us do it. We love you because we want you to be better than us. We want you to be faster and greater than us and always be teachable. If you're young men, be teachable. Don't think you know everything, because guess what? I still don't know everything, and I'm almost 60.
It's good.
It is true. You think you know, and then you get older and you realize, I don't know.
And to be honest, one more, sometimes it's better to reverse it. Like me being mentored by a 30-year-old.
That's good.
I have heard
I
that.
can
exactly
learn
right.
something
I
from
agree.
a 30-year-old that I don't even know, because they're living in this time better than I am. So I have guys in my life who are 25, 30. I have a couple of 20-year-olds who are just amazing. And they'll come in and go, hey, let me tell you what's happening right now. Let me tell you, here's this. This is where kids are now. I go,
Absolutely.
are you kidding me? I would never know unless I was teachable enough to let a kid teach an old man.
Well, my daughters are very involved in this conference, and they're in their 20s, and it just really makes a difference. I so
Absolutely.
understand that. I think too, the older we get as pastors, the more we withdraw ourselves from our youth groups, and I don't understand why. I think it's because it's a little bit intimidating to us.
Yeah.
We feel stronger when we're behind that pulpit in our world versus going into their world on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night or a Sunday night. And, you can't, you either walk in and they know you care and they love you and you love them. There's something about going back to the basics when you go minister to young people, as you well have said.
Absolutely.
So I think it's just making that extra effort as a pastor to try to stay connected to the youth group, even if it means going to a camp. I know you've done that. I learned from you, he'll get on the bus, and when his kids go on a camp or come to Forward Conference or something like that, he's gotten on the bus, he and his wife, and rode with them just to hang out with them. Well, guess what?
Well, I learned that from you.
Well,
When I did our youth camp, you and Sharice rode on the bus up with us.
and some of the
Hundreds
most
of kids.
meaningful things happen
Absolutely.
like that, just eating together and riding on a bus and spending. We're not talking about massive amounts of times, but it's amazing, just a little investment from the senior pastor into the ministry there. And same true with children's ministry. And I need to do it better because we just get so busy.
Absolutely.
And yet they're really the very heartbeat of the church.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the fivefold ministry does not include youth pastor,
Whoa.
right? So
Well, you were a youth pastor. You can speak from that perspective too.
well,
before
it's the young people are under the same covering in a church as everybody else. It's the covering of that pastor, that voice that's there, and the youth pastor's job is just to facilitate the pastor's heart to those kids.
Wow.
And so as pastors, you can't be negligent. You don't have to do it once a month, a couple times a year. Go on a trip with them, go speak to the youth group. It doesn't take and if you're a youth pastor listening, you got to keep asking your pastor.
do.
Hey,
And you got to keep pushing
Yep.
and creating the perfect moment. That's a big thing every single year when that happens. So,
Boy, that's a huge point, because if you don't get in our world, and so many youth pastors, I think, struggle with feeling like, I don't need to bother the pastor. I don't need to bother. That's my job. But really, if you sense that disconnect starting to happen, one of the greatest things you can do is be a friend to that pastor by just, I got to have some time. need to get with you. I need to talk to you. I need to go out to lunch with you, something like that. I mean, I'm busy. Everybody's busy. But you know what? I'm not that busy because I care about my youth group.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So,
and it is true. One of the jobs of the pastor or the youth pastor is to point kids to the pastor, to the church. But one of the best ways we can do that is not just by talking about him, but they get to see him.
Yeah.
They get to see their pastor. And then coaching the pastor, hey, listen, there's a bunch of kids that don't go to church. Their families don't go to church.
Yeah.
But if you would come and love on them, minister and pray for them and ask them to come Sunday and bring their parents, it goes a long way.
I agree. Reggie, I know your time is limited. You're speaking tonight, so I want to let you go in a few hours, actually. And I want to let you go, but I want to ask you a couple of things about communicating specifically to young people.
Yeah.
Can you give us any secrets, any things? How do you maintain the interest? You're not a young little rooster here. I mean, how do you hold? I've watched you. You hold captive an audience. You have that ability. And I realize a lot of that's your style and the way you do it. But you've also, I'm sure there's some practical things that you could say to communicators and even parents. Yeah. What is it that matters? How do you speak to young people and communicate effectively?
There are three things, and it doesn't matter if it's church or a public school setting. Three things I want to bring across, and I'll show you how I do it. First, I need every person to know they're loved. And that's just who you are. You can get up, I could look in a camera or in a microphone and say, I just came to tell you I love you. And genuinely, if you really care, kids can sniff out a liar
so true.
And a fake a mile away. But they can sniff, if they can sniff that out, genuine, they can sniff out just as fast. So Excellent. If you really care and you say, I love you, it'll snap a room. A public school assembly program switches everything. Because there's something about this dude. This guy really does care. The second thing is, I let kids know this. You have value and you have purpose. And that there's a reason for your life. There's a reason that you're breathing. There's a reason that you're here. And people, I'm saying I'm young people communicating, but it's really everybody needs to know they have value today. Because there are dads taking their life, leaving 4 or 5 kids behind, thinking that they're better off without them being there. They need a dad or a preacher or a pastor to step in and go, you have value, you have purpose. So no one said that. How do I have value and purpose? Maybe you need to stick around and come back next week and I'll let you know what that is. That's what they're thinking. No one told me I had value except this man. Why? I got to figure it out. And here they come back again. The last thing I do, you're loved, you have value and purpose. And here's the key with young people especially, I hear you, that they're heard. And the stuff that I do, the sermons that I preach, especially to young people, I come to forward, and it's probably, I don't say you should do this. I don't have a sermon every year I come to forward, but I'm in every session. And I'm like putting my puzzle together on Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday night, last night. Okay, I'm still in your sermon.
Absolutely.
Just one time.
Please.
But I'm going to pass a quarter out to everybody in the church. Everybody's going to have a quarter. I'm going to say, don't spend this. You need to keep this. Put it in your pocket. If you don't have cash, put it in your pocket. So every time, every night, every morning, you go to put your pants on or you reach in your pocket, you're going to feel that 25 cents. And that'll remember you to be aware of that 25th bear.
Oh,
That's
wow.
so good.
So I was like, oh, my goodness.
I need you to preach it, and then I'll take it back.
But little stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've trained myself to look and think, dude, if a kid had a quarter, or every time they'll see a quarter,
really good.
They're just like 25. That's the bear. I can't do that. I got to be right. If something's wrong in their life, they see a quarter. Simulate stuff. Simulate. Take the world, what they have, put a sermon to it, make it similar. Like tonight, 2 words. Let's go. I'm going to say it, they'll repeat it. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning going, let's go. We're going to do it so many times tonight. It has nothing to do with the sermon, but everything to do with keeping them engaged, keeping them right there. Let's go, let's go. If you notice, Pastor, his sermon was probably 29 minutes long. You don't have to go an hour to impress
That's right.
God.
That's exactly
Dude,
right.
you don't have to do that. Dude, a sitcom is 19 minutes long. Then with commercials, it's 30 minutes. But in 19 minutes, they can make $1 million each actor because they do something in that 19 minutes that makes people want to tune in next week.
I would dare say if you can't do it in 19 minutes, you probably you think more of your speaking ability than you ought, because this is a different generation. And I have on a regular Sunday, I'll have a keyboard player come out in 30 minutes. I want them. I don't care how long. I don't care what I do. I want to hear that sound in 30 minutes. It means I need to get to whatever I'm ending this thing and do it now.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I really think it sounds like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But if you're going to try to communicate to kids, you better hold it to about 15, 19 minutes.
It's a big
But
deal.
you can get a lot done.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I marveled today at the different styles, but both rich messages. Jake Fuqua. I have a hard time saying.
Fighters.
Yeah, Foo Fighters. Jake Foo Fighters. He preached, and it was a real, almost theological type message. Yeah. And then you had Javon preaching just straight fire, Pentecostal style, and it was just it was amazing. Both revelation, and they both found their thing. But you got to get up and get it done, right?
Absolutely. Those are the three things.
So what are you thinking at the end of the message? You said you work from the back, so you know where you're going at the end most of the time?
Yes.
Yeah, that's important, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Do you normally have a song that you have asked them to prepare?
I don't usually have a song.
Yeah.
I know
any practical things that, like a youth pastor or anybody trying to communicate as a senior pastor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are you preaching that?
Right. So what?
Why?
Yeah.
Why when they leave the room? What is in their mind? What do they want to leave the room? What do you want your people leaving going, yes, that's what I needed. That's it right there. That's the point. And it could be one, it could be two. I try to at least have three, because one point might hit a group.
Yeah.
And they said I had to respond because of the first point.
Yeah.
Somebody else, it was the second point. Another person, it was the third point, or it was the first illustration, or it was the last illustration. You don't know.
So don't just go for the loss in a practical way to a communicator. That's always one of my three. I'm going to go for the loss. Yeah. But try to be extremely sensitive to the Holy Spirit and even what you have been preaching, to go after those specific. And I love that. What a profound communication skill that you can grab from that. Always have three landing strips.
Absolutely.
Basically,
you never know.
So that you
never know what plane somebody
impact,
else is on.
Yeah, you make the impact of that message go in three veins. Yeah. Tremendous. And so here's what I want you to do. Is that kind of what you end with?
Absolutely.
These three areas?
Yeah, I want you to talk to your wife about this or this or this when you get in the car. And if they can remember when they get in the car, it's going to be all right.
That's great.
And you know what you got to do? Last thing, Sunday's the day.
Yeah.
If you a pastor, it's Super Bowl Sunday.
Come on.
And you only got 52 of them. So you need to go for that ring every 50. You need to have 52 rings on New Year's Eve. You need to just look at all the 52 rings for your championships that you have and get ready to win them again.
Come on.
There's no time off.
Go for the ring.
And if you take time off, you need to find somebody who you can trust. Because if you take time off, why are you worried about what's happening at your church? You need to have somebody you trust that hey, it's
And
all
I,
good.
And I guess you're one of those that I trust.
Absolutely.
When I can't be in the pulpit, I've got some great people
Yeah.
on staff, but you're one of the most trusted voices. And boy, if you're a pastor out there, now he doesn't need somewhere to go, but honestly, there's nobody greater. And we love you and we honor you.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Would you mind saying a word of prayer? I know, again, we need to let you
We're
go.
good. We're fine.
But,
I'm already done. I got this one.
That's awesome. Well, share anything else you feel.
I'll do one more thing. Just tell you one more
Please.
thing. He could have picked anybody, but he picked us. Hey, you notice I didn't say he picked you. No, he picked us. Because you might be a dude out in the middle of Iowa with 100 people in your church.
Right.
Dude, guess what? We're right there with you. That's why these guys are doing this. That's why I'm in this. You're not alone. You're just not alone. The saddest thing for me in COVID was I buried 5 friends. All 5 were preachers, and 3 took their life. And the 3 that took their life wrote me and said, thank you for everything you've done. It's not because of you. If I had more friends like you, I think I would have made it.
Wow.
And look, I'll be your friend.
That's powerful.
You may have only heard me. You may never even know who I am, but I'll be your friend.
Reggie, it's hard. It's hard.
It's
Ministry
just hard
is
being in
hard.
this.
Ministry. I'm telling you, I guess in the ministry world, we've gone to the top of the mountain in some ways.
Yeah.
And it's not what people think.
No.
There's no amount of whatever that can make you want the kind of pressure and the kind of load that ministry can become. And so, boy, to hear that moved me to my core, that 3 out of 5 even had one friend that they could reach out to. Goes right back to the purpose of this podcast.
This is why,
Exactly.
We
Right.
don't know what we're doing with this, to be quite honest, except we felt pastors and young preachers and even just good Christian young leaders, they need a friend. They need, especially pastors, need a friend that they can, and I don't know where we're going with this, but we're going to figure it out because
I think
I
y'all
was
should
that
do
guy.
a pastor conference.
Well, there you go.
I'm just saying. I'll come for free. I ain't even joking. I ain't even speaking. I'm gonna sit on the front row. I'll pay. Because, dude, guys are wanting stuff like this.
Yeah.
They're like, how do we do this? Where can we go? And I'll be honest, in public schools, a motivational speaker in public school, we have a company, one of the best that we started. It's all Christian based, but they seriously have us lay on a couch and talk to a dude 3 times a year
So good.
as a public school speaker. And I'm thinking, now wait a minute. All I do is give the same speech every day in a public school, and they think I need help because of what I see in these kids. What does a pastor need? 52 weeks a year. That's just when he's in front of people. Then all the rest of the week, he's answering calls, he's burying, he's marrying, he's watching guys beat their wife, he's watching people die, people commit suicide. If I need to be on a couch for a public school speaker, maybe we need somebody to talk to too.
That's strong.
It's what is it? 1,300 pastors leave the ministry a month, I
Yeah.
believe. I mean, might want to check that. But
Ain't nothing wrong with laying on the couch.
only
Every
8%.
pro player, every
Exactly.
pro athlete has to have a psychologist, psychiatrist. And
Man.
if what they do, they need something like that, dude.
My
the
wife,
devil's after
my
us.
wife and I see someone every month. Every month.
Absolutely.
Spend 4 hours a month. And
Absolutely.
if you would have told me even 5 years ago that I would sit for 4 hours a month in one setting, and I don't dread it, I look forward to it. I went to it. I know it all. I went to it thinking I'm going to do this for her. And honestly, Reggie, it's been life-changing for me because I did not understand how much I carried even from other things. And I'm not a weak person. I'm not a weak leader. I'm very decisive.
Strongest man I know.
But there's an accumulative thing that when you just keep going, because like you said, the stuff just keeps coming.
Yeah.
A funeral, another one, this, that, the church, this ministry, this campus, that campus. And you just keep taking it on. You never really let it unload. And boy, if you just talk to somebody, if you got somebody to talk to, it just helps your marriage.
You're not weak.
No,
you're
not
just
weak.
human.
That's
and
it.
we all human.
It's very powerful. This is important, what we're saying right now.
It's going to save somebody's life. It can save
And
our life.
if you're out there and you feel alone,
Yeah.
and as Pastor Reggie talked about, you're at that kind of a place, you don't feel like you got nobody, just send a message. You know, you can code it, you can do whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll personally be the one that calls you.
Will
so,
too.
you know, don't give up. You know, you're going to be all right. And you just need the right people telling you that.
Absolutely. I'll pray.
Yeah.
Jesus, thank you. Thank you for every man, every woman, every person that's watching, listening, hearing this. God, thank you for hope. Thank you for hope. Thank you, God, that we go through struggles and we're not ashamed to let other people know that, hey, I hurt, you hurt, we hurt. Let's get better together. Because, God, that's what this is about. It's about us realizing, hey, every day is not rainbows and sunshines, and the world has a way of knocking you down and trying to keep you there. But with God's help, we can move forward. We got to keep moving forward. So, Jesus, touch my friends, touch them all. Give them hope. Give somebody peace right now. Give a family what they need. God, let a pastor go home and say, baby, listen to this, and let him hear this, and let him and let his wife know, I'm going to make it. We're going to make it together. Give us hope. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Reggie.
Thank you, you
Amen.
guys. Don't forget, if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, subscribe.
Make a comment, do something, tell somebody about it, share it on a social media platform, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You're the best.
Thank you for joining us for Mentoring Moments with Jensen Franklin and Marcus Mecum. Leave a comment to join the conversation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.